Okay, so recently I was working with a client and they had a really great question that I thought could be helpful for everybody. And what they asked was, what is the difference between Kapalabhati, or the skull shining breath, and superventilation 1? They're both nasal only, they're both faster breath patterns. What is the difference? And I'm going to show you and then I'll explain. So Kapalabhati is like this. That's Kapalabhati. Superventilation 1 is like this. So you notice the Kapalabhati is much faster. And that's a yogic practice. Kapalabhati, the air never makes it up into the upper chambers of the lungs. It's not a full breath. It's kind of almost like you're bouncing the air in and out of the body. Superventilation 1 is closer to a Wim Hof method style breath in that it involves a full inhale and then a relaxed exhale. So I'm trying to get as much air into those lungs as I can in that full breath, and then I'm allowing the elasticity of the lungs to push the air out on their own. So it's almost like a half or a 3/4 inhale followed by a quarter exhale. Something like a Kapalabhati breath is really going to focus more on getting carbon dioxide out of the system. When you have a short inhale followed by a bursting exhale, you're going to be forcing out more carbon dioxide than oxygen you're taking into the system. Conversely, superventilation is going to be bringing in much more oxygen and then only a slight amount of carbon dioxide. So you might notice things like when you do Kapalabhati, if it's a newer practice for you, that you might feel dizzy or lightheaded or pressure build up much sooner than when you do superventilation. If you do Kapalabhati and then try to hold your breath, you can't hold it for nearly as long as if you do superventilation. And that's because of the amount of oxygen that you bring in when you do superventilation versus Kapalabhati. So these subtle nuances are important things to start realizing as you build your breath practice, because ultimately it's kind of like sets, reps, and exercise choice. There isn't one thing that rules them all or one practice that's good for you. As you get more advanced, you'll realize that there are nuances and subtle changes and differences that can really affect what you're getting out of your practice that day, that week, month, year, and so on. And so if you think about it like any other training, you have to be aware of what kind of response is my body getting, and then ultimately, is this the adaptation that I'm looking for? So this is a more advanced thinking. If you're new, you should be focused on mechanics, mechanics, mechanics. And once you start to really understand those things, start to experiment, play, challenge different protocols, see how they affect you, and make sure you have some metrics, some kind of test and retest, so that you can tell what you've done.